Logan Stieber, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about your career in your early days. Let's talk about this past weekend, though. Were you out at Bill Farrow?
Yeah, so we had a good busy weekend. Got out there on Friday. We had a couple guys wrestling Greco. Then we had a couple guys wrestling freestyle, and then we actually had two dual meets on Sunday at Columbia and then at Hofstra. So busy weekend.
Wow, you guys been wrestling a lot of duels already. That Virginia Tech duel is amazing.
Yeah, awesome dual meet. It's always exciting to duel them right away. It's just a heater of a dual meet every year, and it's early, so it's always, I'd say it's fun, but when you don't do well, it's not always fun. But it's always a great dual meet, and this one was another great one.
And what's the schedule look like between now and CKLV?
Nothing. So we'll train. So we had today off, and we have do two workouts tomorrow. We'll do one on Wednesday morning, and then we give them a break until about Sunday afternoon. And then we train Sunday through Wednesday, and then we will travel to Vegas Wednesday, and then yeah, Friday, Saturday compete.
Oh, it's that quick. It's the weekend after. So if you put yourself back when you were at Ohio State, if you had something like that where no team practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday, were you still getting workouts in?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go back home and where I'm from, I have a really good club that I grew up in, the Burnett's. So I would usually work out on Thursday and then have Thanksgiving. And then Friday kind of depended, I'd always do a workout. Sometimes I'd wrestle or I'd go up either to where my club coach at high school or club practice and do another practice. Saturday, usually we just hang out and then Sunday back on the mats with the team. So always continuing to do something though. It's like whether
Yeah.
it's super intense or just some cardio, always doing something.
And you mentioned the Burnett's. That's something I wanted to ask you about. So I'm in Chicago, Illinois guy. Heard about the Burnett's for years. Who like break down who are the coaches? What's the club? What's the barn? I've heard all these things and I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
knew kind
yeah.
of what was what.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just give you the backstory. So when I was a little kid, real young, I wrestled in a local tournament. I lost to a really tough kid, tough guy from Ohio. Well, we were just really young, so he was
Yeah.
probably tough then, but he was ended up being a four-time state champion. His name was Tony Jamison. Um, and met him, and they were like, oh, his dad talked to my dad and was like, we're going to a club about an hour away. You guys should come. And so it was the Burnett's father. So Ron Burnett. He passed away a few years ago. So he was my coach for a few years, and then I kind of moved on to Eric. So Eric, kind of the head of the club, and really took it uh, to crazy levels. So I was with Eric for maybe 10 years old to 18, and then probably around 16 or so, Eric's brother Scotty came around, got back from college, and I started working with him a lot too, and now he's a super successful coach at Perrysburg High School, and yeah, so I trained with them. So just those guys, and then they have a bunch of other great assistants that helped them out. It was just really, really good training. Really, really, really good training.
And you say you got crazy. I mean, what was crazy about it?
Just the people in the room. I mean, just had so many like high school state champions, junior high state champions, just a bunch of just animals, and they really trained us hard. And then as I got better, he had some good high school kids that he coached that moved on to college that were all Americans or starting for Division I teams, and they would come back, and I would train with them in high school. So it was a huge help for me too.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you hear
You're good.
that?
No, I couldn't hear it.
All right, cool. Yeah, so there's a huge help for me to compete with just college kids when I was 16, 17 years old. Um, and then so we would do workouts with Eric probably like uh 3 to 4 days a week, and then my dad would run workouts 2 days a week, and my dad's workouts were the crazy workouts.
I heard that was red flag day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's red flag day twice a week, so it was it was nuts.
What
It
wa-
was yeah.
what was your dad's like routine or like philosophy? Like, how was it different?
So the group was called Stieber's Dogs. So my dad trained dogs. He trained Labradors, and then after a while he stopped that, and now he's kind of back into it, and he trains Belgian Malinois and Prisa Caneros, like killer dogs now. But anyways, so my dad didn't know anything about wrestling. He actually won a high school state title in basketball, um, kind of random. And but he knew how to work us hard. So we had a small group of maybe like 8 to 12 kids, and it was extremely intense. I don't know if it was yeah, very, very intense. A lot of stories uh that wouldn't work too well nowadays, but it was kind of crazy in there. I mean, it was very intense. My dad would parents would bring their kids to, like, hey, this is like, bring their kids, so my dad could train them really hard. And some parents kind of came into it maybe not knowing how tough it was, and my dad would be like, listen, this is gonna be hard. You don't have to stay here and watch if you don't want to, but it's gonna be hard and it'll be good for him. And it was very intense. Lots of crying from different people, and some angry dads and stuff, but it was good. And my dad pushed us really, really hard. He did a really good job of like not crossing the line into like, okay, like this, it's way too much, but being like very, very tough on us.
And would you say it was more like wrestling workouts or like running, push-ups, pull-ups?
All wrestling, it'd be just groups of three, essentially the whole 2 hour practice. So we get
Okay.
warm and then groups of three drilling, like one man in the middle for, each guy be in the middle for, let's just say, 5 minutes straight. So I'd hit moves on my partners for 5 minutes straight, and then it'd be defending 5 minutes straight, and then it'd be right to live. And then we'd do, maybe an hour live in groups of three. And it got crazy because now I talk to my dad about a lot of stuff now, and he's like, yeah, maybe, I pushed you guys too far. But what he would do, like with me, I was pretty good early. So, we had a lot of really tough kids, but if I was really crushing everybody, he would try to break me. And so every time we'd do it would be groups of three, and it'd be like, I'd be in the middle for 10 minutes straight. And every time I got close to his takedown, he would just stop. He'd be like, time, next guy in. So every time I got close, he wouldn't let me score. And then if someone got one on me, like, he would let him go all the way till he scored and try to break me and try to. And I'm sure sometimes it did, but I definitely got pretty mentally tough from it. And uh, yeah, it was kind of crazy.
That's all. I'm sure there's tons of legendary stories. Who would you say you learned the technique from? Coach Burnett?
Yeah, Eric. So like I said, my dad trained us like crazy, but uh Eric was the technique guy. I mean, it was really, really elite. Just stuff that you just, like, it kind of makes sense, but just really, really good, chain wrestling and putting multiple things together, and working really hard on top. And that's one of the reasons why I was good on top, was from Eric and Eric's dad, just, making us do the different drills and making us really focus on the top position. Um, I would say the biggest thing was chain wrestling, though. I mean, he was really good at uh, just presenting ideas and just, getting different thoughts in our head of just trying to chain wrestle and continue to wrestle through positions. Because I remember I'd go to different camps across Ohio or different places with really good wrestlers and stuff, and they'd be like, "Man, you guys' wrestling is so good." It's like, what's going on? It's like we stopped their first move, but then you guys score on the second one, or we stopped the first two and you guys score on a third. And I was like, yes, that's just how we're told to wrestle. I don't know, Eric. That's how Eric taught us how to wrestle. You just keep wrestling through stuff. So, it was cool just to be. I mean, he was just you're a really good coach, and I would say I owe my wrestling success to him, to
Wow.
Eric, the whole Burnett family, but Eric I worked with the most. So definitely, I mean, he's just very, very good, and I'm very grateful to have uh the Burnett family in my life.
I mean, from what I hear, your room. I mean, I don't. It's funny because like growing up, like who might be great in middle school to you that stands out, but like they may have never made it. So I'm sure there's tons of good guys you worked out with who are good at like 8 and 10 or good at middle school who people outside of Ohio may not know. But I was looking at some of the Team Ohio Fargo. It's like one year at Fargo, it was like David Taylor was 98, you're 105. You guys had
Yeah.
another guy Clark at 91, like
Yeah, so he
crazy.
was down below. Yeah, so we had a great group. So Jamie Clark was in my club. He
Oh
trained with
wow,
us,
okay.
and then Sammy White. Well, I think went to college at Illinois. I wrestled him twice in the Fargo finals. He was in our club. Felipe Martinez was in our club.
Felipe
Um,
was in your club.
yeah, so this is like, so this group right here. So some of these guys worked with Eric, but these are all like my dad's little group. So it was me, my brother, Cam Tassari, Chris Phillips, and then Felipe, Jamie, Sammy White, a kid named Jerome Robinson from St. Ignatius, who was a state champion, was in the 103-pound bracket with me, David Taylor, Jamie Clark, Sammy White at Ironman. Who else was in that club? There's a couple kids from Michigan in the club. I know I'm forgetting some people that I'm gonna. We just had just a bunch of animals that were just Felipe's brother was junior high state champion. Yeah, we had some really just because we're right because Felipe is from Toledo area, so we're right in an hour from where he was, and we'd have people come from Michigan to do these small groups, and people from Pennsylvania sometimes would come in and just it was cool.
So what was
So
that? What was it? 103-pound bracket?
So at Ironman, it was me. David beat me in the finals, and then I beat Jamie in the semifinals. And I'm pretty sure. Now I know Jerome Robinson was either in the other semi or in the other semi quarter. I think he placed, and then I think Sammy White placed
Wow.
as well. He had to. I mean, the next year I wrestled him in the Ironman finals. I wrestled him all the time. He's from Massillon Perry. Was very, very tough to score on. Very good wrestler. He beat Jamie Clark as a freshman in the state finals. Jamie Clark's freshman year, which if he would have won, he would have been a 4-time high school state champion.
And he's a Fargo champ. Because that one year it was like you guys won 91, 98, 105 at Fargo.
Yeah. It was cool, and we all just we worked together, and I knew David Taylor really well, so I would always go down to St. Paris and work with him a lot.
Oh, you would? So you guys were close too?
Yeah, really good friends. We wrestled at Tulsa. I think I was 8 years old. I made the finals and I lost to one of the Alton brothers, Dylan or Andrew. And then they have true third or true second at Tulsa, which I'd never been a part of that. So I'm like, all right, true second. That sucks. I just lost. And I had David Taylor. I didn't know who he was. And he definitely didn't know who I was. And he killed me. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but he beat me probably by 10 or something. But then we kind of became friends, and his dad and my dad became friends. And he was living in Wyoming at the time. And I actually went out and visited for a week and kind of just hung out. And they had a nice big ranch and so rode horses and did some different things. It was super cool. And then they moved to kind of Dayton area, St. Paris, Graham, Ohio, Urbana, Ohio. And so then I would come down a lot to work with them and the Jordans and all that.
Was the Burnett School Wrestling different from the Jordan School Wrestling or similar?
Yes, very, very different.
So?
I would say because Jordan's Coach Jordan had a very I don't want to say simple because it was, but it relatively simple of like, these are the things that we're doing. We're going to drill it a million times and then we're going to wrestle live. And it was really good. And it was all pretty basic stuff. But obviously the basics work. So it was just a great, like, you're going to come in, you're going to drill hard. We're going to learn the same moves most of the summers with little variations, but you're going to have a bunch of really tough kids in the room that are all state champions or junior high state champions, whatever. And just, get after it. Where the Burnett, I feel like with Eric, it was kind of like there'd be a little plan and then things would be made up on the fly. And, we would, things were always a little bit different. So
more top and bottom with Burnett, or
definitely more top and bottom, and just more like I would say, I don't know how to say this. Just different variety with Burnett. So they're both really good. So they're great for me. So I could go to Jordan's and hit all the basics, all the good stuff, the single leg, the cutback, all the stuff that got me really good, and drill it a bunch of times, and then wrestle a bunch of live. And then with Eric, I could go in and say, hey, work on. Obviously Eric was my coach, my club coach. So it was like, with Jordan's, there's more of a camp. And then Eric, I could go, okay, well, this isn't working. What can I do to fix this? So these are all things that I would imagine that the Jordans did, with their high
guys.
School. Yeah. But obviously, I had a great relationship with Coach Jordan and the whole group down there.
Dude, Ohio during this time was just buzzing with killers, man. Like the names you're mentioning, it's like unbelievable.
Yeah, David Habit was another guy that was in our group. He would come train with us.
Okay.
So he was wrestled Edinburgh, NCAA finalist, wrestled I forget what country, a bunch of times and wrestled at Michigan's training center. So he went to St. Ignatius with Jerome Robinson. So he was an animal too. Yeah.
When would you say was like the turning point to when you started wrestling year round and really went serious with it?
Well, I never wrestled year round actually until college.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I would say I was serious with it maybe the first year I started, maybe the second year I started. I was always serious with it, but I always played football in the fall. So after Fargo, so like essentially August 1st to uh October-ish, I never wrestled. And then in October, last month of football season, I wrestled maybe once a week on like Sundays. Um, but sometimes I wouldn't if I um got maybe a little banged up playing football or just didn't want to or whatever. So that was always a big break for me, which was really nice.
Now you're not
Um,
talking. You played football in high school still.
yeah, I played football in high school.
Whoa, dude! A recruit like you with those knee injuries—that's crazy. Like no
Yeah,
injury, nothing.
no, I was good. Coach Ryan came and watched one or two of my football games, and yeah, it was cool.
Probably had a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, we were in a small school, right? So it was, I had 70 or 60 kids in my class, and we were in the smallest division, but I was still, 140 pounds, playing
Right.
against guys, 180 to 210. I mean, there weren't that many guys over 200, but it was fun. It was a small school, so all my friends played football, and I always liked it. I think I played tackle as a third and fourth grader, or fourth and fifth grader. Um, and then flag sixth grade year because the league I was at didn't have a sixth grade. It was kind of weird. Then I played junior high all through high school. I loved
Oh
it.
wow,
Super fun. Yeah.
that's awesome. Now, outside of the wrestling, were you doing a lot of like cross training, like pull ups, push ups, kind of thing, or mainly just wrestling as a middle schooler and high schooler?
Yeah. So my dad, like I said, he just didn't know anything about wrestling, but he knew how to train us. And I always kind of say, I mean, wrestling definitely fits me. But I think if we would have done any other sport, um, um, I would have been me and my brother would have been pretty good at it because my dad trained us hard. So we would do push-ups. I would be doing like we'd be doing like 1,000 push-ups a day when we were little kids,
Seriously.
a couple days a week. Yeah, we'd be doing sit-ups, and then we'd be we live in the country, so we'd be uh just running outside, and then a bunch, and then my grandparents have a little hill, so my grandparents live a quarter mile away. They go exactly quarter mile, mailbox to mailbox. So we would run down there and do sprints up the hill and stuff. And then my dad even got some of the like guys, some of our friends, football guys, we would do like plyometrics in the summer and stuff. So yeah, we just did a bunch of stuff like that. So pull-ups, we a little bit of pull-ups just through like the pull-up bar and stuff like that. But lots of push-ups and sit-ups, lots of running, and we would do as I got in high school, I would do morning workouts, like
Mhm.
jump roping in the basement or running on the treadmill and stuff.
Got it. Okay. No, that's it's interesting to see because I remember hearing stories like, and you probably know this, like the number of folk style losses you have your whole life is like less than 10. Is that true?
It's probably somewhere around
Something
there.
crazy.
Yeah, I asked my dad. I said, man, were we pretty good right away? He said, yeah, you guys were both pretty tough right away, and then he did a great job. I mean, him and my mom did everything they could to make sure we were in the best chance to succeed. I mean, they would get off work and they would drive. Our until maybe my sophomore year of high school, the Burnett's was about 45 minutes away each way.
Wow.
So and we would go sometimes before, so we do a small group. So my mom would get off work at 5 o'clock, take us right, to the Burnett's, get there at 5:45 or so, or maybe she'd get off work early because we usually go from about 5:30 to 6:30, and then 6:30 as a small group, and then 6:30 to 8:30 as a whole practice. We did that, 2 or 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So it was a
Wow.
really big convenience for us when they moved the barn closer to us. Um, there's a big barn, it's like 10 minutes from our house. So kind of random, but it worked out really well. So yeah, my parents sacrificed like so much for us, and they just did a lot. So they did a lot of things for us, and they put us in a bunch of really, really good positions to succeed.
When I heard you say on another podcast, I wish I could remember it because it was an awesome interview. It seemed like it was an Ohio guy who did it with you, but you were saying that your wife was also a Division I athlete, and you hear talk about coaches and whatnot, and it kind of dawned on you that like you never had a bad coach in your life, and
Oh
you
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
And you talk about some of the coaches you're around, like you're around some of the best of the best. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I forget the podcast, but I remember talking about that. Yeah, it's just because she's done different sports, and then she ran track and cross country at Ohio State. So, she's had good coaches and bad coaches. And I was just thinking in my mind, I've never had a bad coach. I don't think. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone that I've been around has been very helpful. They all sometimes different ways of coaching, but all kind of a positive mindset. And yeah, I just feel really grateful that just been really lucky with coaches and the good people around me and yes, all the way through from a little kid up till end of my career. So been really grateful for that.
But you mentioned Coach Ryan coming to watch you play football, and he even told me, he's like, listen, even without me, Logan Stieber is going to be a Buckeye his whole life. But were you talk to us about the college recruiting? I mean, I got to imagine probably the most recruited athlete in a decade when you were coming through.
No,
David, go ahead.
it's really funny. I mean, it's just I I will be I can't imagine there will ever be an easier recruit for Ohio State than me. I committed as a sophomore in high school. I took one other unofficial visit. I took 0 official visits. I took one other unofficial visit to Michigan. And I watched a football game there, Ohio State versus Michigan. I knew their staff because they're from Northeast Ohio. Good people. I think Coach McFarland was his name. Good staff. And I've been up there a few times training with the Massa family. So Logan Massa, Taylor Massa. So I knew them a little bit, and they kind of wanted to do maybe one last ditch effort. Not really, because I wasn't even able to be a recruit yet, but just kind of like show me some love and do an unofficial visit to a football game. But it was a good game. The Buckeyes won. But I just so I committed as a sophomore in the spring of my sophomore year, and it didn't matter if Coach Ryan was the coach there or not. I it probably solidified my love for Ohio State or my decision making, knowing that he was there and Coach Roselli and Jay was just won a couple national titles, so I know he was going to be in there. So yeah, easy recruit for Ohio State. No, and it's crazy because this is a different world. I mean, I won Fargo that sophomore year, so I committed in maybe May, then I won Fargo, and I had one coach. I don't even think he's coaching anymore. Said at Fargo, he said, "Congrats." He said, "If anything ever changes, just let me know." That was it. That's the only no tampering, nothing. No calls on
No Kale
whatever day,
Sanderson, nothing.
nothing. And I was nice. It was a different world where the coaches respected the commit, and I didn't look anywhere else. It's just, different world. I knew where I wanted to go. I wasn't going to waste any time. It was Ohio State. If I didn't wrestle in college, I would have went to Ohio State as a student.
Where's the love for Ohio State come from?
Oh man, when you're an Ohio kid and you grow up and you're watching the Buckeyes every Saturday, it's how could you not? And you're watching them and you're freaking and they win. They win the title in 2001. You're sitting there. It's just, it's just
Yeah.
it's just I would imagine other states are like that with their big schools or big state schools, but for Ohio kid, it's like, why wouldn't you want to? Now, obviously, everyone has different situations and stuff, but for me, I loved Ohio State, and things were going in the right direction for wrestling, so it made it easier. But
So even
yeah,
bigger than like an NFL team for you, the Buckeyes, so that were way, way bigger in the household.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, my dad my dad was a big Browns guy, but
Yeah.
the Browns kind of tear your heart out sometimes. So, but they're doing good now. They're doing all right. But yeah, for me, it was always Ohio State. I mean, never a thought of anywhere else.
And when I think about your high school career, 4-time state champ is an incredible accomplishment, but your teammates, you had this foursome doing it with you. So that was pretty amazing. And then the 2 Ironman state champs. Talk to us about Fargo. When was your first time out at Fargo? Was it going into freshman or going into
Yep.
sophomore year?
Yeah, going into freshman year. So actually, it was kind of funny. So I was originally signed up. I was gonna go 98 pounds, and then David was gonna go 105. And we were at the little Ohio training camp, and I was struggling so bad with my weight. I was dying, and David was really light. Um, so I was like, dude, I'm gonna go up. I'm like, I can't make 105. I can't make 98. I'm hurting. And then he was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go down. Like, we'll win. And then we knew Jamie was going 91. So it was like, cool, we'll win 3 in a row. So yeah, as an 8th grader, I'm like, yeah, maybe like 2 weeks before Fargo, a week before Fargo, I decided I was going 105 because it wasn't going to be in the cards to make 98, and it worked out really well because like we were talking about earlier, we won 3 in a row, and I just wrestled a freestyle there.
Did you have any close matches?
No,
Because
my first
go ahead.
no, my first match, I wrestled one of my old training partners. I think his name's Nick Shank. He was from Maryland. Tough kid. Used to always come to different camps and stuff. So that was the only time I gave up a point. So I had a good tournament.
Because that's like the first time where it's like it actually really matters, right? Tulsa is awesome. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess cadet 105-98 college coaches aren't looking at that, but it is a little bit, right? Your first time you're at Fargo at the cadet level is a big deal.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was just it was super fun. I mean, I think that was the first that was like the first like big event where I was like, all right, this is cool. Like I think I was like, okay, I'm pretty tough. I always knew that I was like pretty good wrestler because I won most of my matches or whatever, but I was like, all right, this is like a big national event, not just a little kid national event.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was super yeah, that was super cool event.
And then you won it 2 more times. Did you say you wrestled your teammate in the finals one of the times?
Yeah. So my second year cadet and first year junior, I wrestled Sammy White in the finals. So he was one of our kids in our club.
That's
Yeah.
insane, dude.
Yeah, so he was a beast. I mean, he beat a bunch of really tough guys. He beat Ramos in the semis. He beat Modesta McCauley. He beat Villalonga. So just a bunch of
Wow.
animals. Yeah. So he beat them all on the other side, and then I beat him in the finals. And then yeah, I won a junior Greco title too.
Dang. Man, those names you mentioned so loaded back then. Like that's a great era. Dustin McCauley especially.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was just, I mean, and I knew Dustin just from different Jordan's camps and stuff. So it was a really tough bracket. And I mean, my junior year, when I was a junior, I wrestled Jesse Delgado. I wrestled Ivanov from Iowa.
Oh,
I mean, there was that bracket. It's crazy. Every year, like when I go home, I look at the names, right? It's
yeah.
like in my bedroom, I look at it and I'm like, dang, man, there's some crazy names, people you forget about, and you're like, oh wow, that's cool. So yeah,
Well,
I like Fargo. It was any event where you can go and do well, you like. So
100%. Well, you mentioned even like McCullough, like people in our age remember that name, but at the time you would have had a lot of college success, and I really don't even know what happened with his career, but like he still had an amazing high school career, and that name alone, like that kid was a killer back then, dude.
yeah, I believe he was a D2 national champion.
Okay.
Maybe more than once. So I think uh yeah, he's was really tough, and I think he continued to be super tough.
Did they have any of the FILA, or I guess it was FILA that back then, but did they have like junior worlds and all that, or?
Yeah, so they had I did cadets. And that was at Northwestern. That was cool. That was I think it was like Cadet 105, FILA Cadet. But they didn't have Cadet Worlds. And then I did FILA Juniors at the end of my sophomore year. And I won the FILA Juniors 121.
Wow.
So that was a crazy bracket. My first match I had Tyler Clark. It was a Iowa State
It's one of
Iowa
my good
State.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had a
Tough.
heater first match. And then I wrestled David Thorne in the quarterfinals. Another heater because it was best 2 out of 3 periods. So I was up like 2-0 first period, and he lat dropped me at the very end of it to win. So I think I won the next 2 periods, like 1-0, 1-0 or something like that. And then I had Ramos in the semis, and won a really tight, I think 2-period match. And then I had Zach Sanders in the finals, and I won
Dang. Oh my
tight, super
God,
tight.
dude.
Yeah, it was an awesome bracket, but it was one of those things where it like the junior worlds wasn't as like cool of a thing, or I don't know, it wasn't as popular as a thing as it is now. So I didn't even go to the trials. It was so I don't even know why, but I was in the
I tell people
finals.
that. I go, dude, it was at Northwestern. It was called FILA Juniors. It was kind of a random tournament that like a lot of Midwest kids would go to, and you definitely get out of staters, but it was like you really didn't go to the next level. Like maybe you went to a camp at the OTC and that was it.
Yeah, so I didn't even go, and I ended up being Zach Sanders was in the finals then, and then Zach Sanders beat David Taylor best 2 out of 3 to make the junior world team. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow. Man. That's you're mentioning all these names. You mentioned Ramos, obviously. He's an Illinois guy. Were you
yep,
at Ironman the year when Felipe Martinez knocked him off in like the quarters, or like maybe it was even the first round? Like, you remember that?
yeah. I forget what I think
He was a freshman.
I think I was 2 years older than Felipe. I might have been 3. No, I think just 2. Yeah, I was there. I was there. It was nuts. I mean,
That was
Felipe. I
shocking.
mean, so he wrestled for Graham, so he was like kind of unknown. So people were like, "Who is this kid?" But like to me and our little group, we knew who he was because he was. I mean, he was in our group and he trained every day. And honestly, he was really good. But in the group we had, everybody was really good. So
Hmm.
no one really would stand out like crazy. People would have good days, but I mean, there were plenty of days where I'd get beat up or Felipe would get beat up or Jamie Clark or my brother. So it was super like when everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, who is this kid?" It was just funny because we just knew him and we
Yeah.
knew how good he was. So it wasn't that surprise to us uh, that he was doing really well.
He used to wrestle a kid from my hometown, Marcus Peterson, in the finals at Tulsa. A really, really
Oh yeah,
tough wrestler. And so back then I heard the name and I was like, man. And then it was like a couple years later and he beat Ramos. But so that was kind of the era you grew up in. And you get to Ohio State. Tell me about your first year at Ohio State.
yeah. So I was trying to make the 125, and I was not doing well doing it. I was dying, but I made it for a couple events, and then I got hurt at Vegas, um, and I was able to just take a medical red shirt,
Okay.
which is nice. And then so I just recovered from that for a while, and then I wrestled at the uh, I wrestled at some like last chance qualifier event like at end of March, and I think it was in Brockport, and I won that, and then I wrestled at the U.S. Open. It was in Cleveland. It was in Cleveland, I'm pretty sure. So the guys I was training with, so I had a kind of a weird year of like some good training, and then I was hurt for a few months, so I couldn't train too hard, and then I was back in it right away. So kind of flash forward to the spring, I was training with so the guys in the room was like Reese Humphrey and Sean Bunch, and they were both number 1 and number 2 in the country at the weight class at 60 kilograms. So it was cool because I was able to train with them every day. So I wanted to wrestle at the seniors, and the coach was like, "No, go juniors. You haven't made a junior world team. Like you should go juniors." And I'm like, oh, "Okay." So I remember watching the finals, and it was Reese and Bunch in the finals, and I was like, "Dude, I wrestle with these guys every day. Like I should be there." Reese beat Sean real close. The next day, I'm in the juniors. I wrestled. I made it to the quarterfinals and lost to Cody Brewer, um, a high school kid. So nowadays people lose to high school kids. Don't feel that bad. I lost to a high school kid. You know, Usually if you're a stud and you lose to a high school kid, that means they're a stud too. Like
And
Cody
as a
Brewer.
high schooler, you thumped some people. We can't forget about that.
Yeah. So it's sometimes
Yeah.
people get maybe embarrassed or whatever, but
Yeah.
kids are really good. I mean, people are good, and if you're not ready to go, they'll beat you. So I remember thinking like, oh wow, I was complaining about not wrestling at the seniors. I just lost to a high school kid. Like, and
How'd you
obviously
process that one?
I was pretty good at the losses.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I remember doing an interview with Zeb afterwards, and he was asking me, he's like, there was some kind of close calls there in the match. And I don't even know if he watched the match because there wasn't any close calls. He just beat me pretty good. It was like 3-1,
Hmm.
3-2, 2 periods. So I was like, no, just I don't know. He kept double egging me, and I couldn't stop it, and things happened. So it was all good. I ended up coming back, got third. And then I made the junior world team a few weeks later. And then I wrestled the junior world championships, and I took second.
Oh, so you went to it. That's when
I
we
went
started
to it.
sending a team. Where was that at?
Yeah, we actually sent the team the when I didn't go. I just didn't go to the
Okay.
trials. But the junior worlds were in Bucharest, Romania, and
That's
I
cool.
lost to actually in the finals. I lost to Askarov, so
Okay.
he won the Olympics the next year. So
Wow.
2011, I lost to the guy, and then 2012 he won the Olympics. So
Man. And then
tough
after that,
match to have.
you're in the lineup all 4 years after that.
Yep.
It's crazy you almost went 125 because I remember when Flo did the follow along documentary with it must have been like your sophomore year,
Yeah.
maybe it's your freshman year. I didn't realize how hard a time you had pulling down to 133. And so to think you were at 125 was like, dude, because
Yeah.
it
I
must
was
have
a
been your
shell of my.
sophomore year.
Yeah, it was my sophomore year. And I just kept growing. It's one of those things where like that's why it's recruiting so interesting because I was planning on being a 25 for life. So as a high school senior, I was weighing like 140, 140, 140, 140 to 145, and I was cutting to 125, and it was a big mistake by me. I should have went 130, but in my mind I was thinking I can't go 125 in college if I go 130 in high school. Like
So
I'm
for like
like
even like every crappy little dual meet where you were teching the kid, you were still making 125 on a 20-pound cut in high school.
I was doing some dual meets at 130 because
Okay.
I had some not very good dual meets. So competition wise, small school, but
So you're
yeah, so
pulling that much. Wow.
yeah, so obviously at the end of the year you kind of get under control, but it was a lot. So it was one of those things where I thought I was gonna be a career 25, and by the end of my career I could have moved up to 49. I thought.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, then when I was 133, I was hurting a little bit too.
So like if
And
you let's say like your sophomore year at 33, you come in on a Monday, are you 15 over or worse than that?
no, I was pretty good about not being that much over because I couldn't really I wasn't losing that much in workouts. I would lose 3 to 4 pounds in a workout. So, to be 15 over would be just I would if I was that much over, I would either have to do 3 workouts a day or I would have to just not eat for a couple of days. So I would try to always be like 8 to 10 over.
Got it.
But
Okay.
in the summer, yeah. So I was 33 my first year. I was about 150, in the summer. And so by the time season started, I was 141. So it was pretty first year 133 was really easy to make.
Yeah.
Second year I was about 155 in the summer. So that was tougher to make.
Now tell me about, your whole life you've been dominating, you've been winning at every level. Finally, your redshirt freshman year, you're in the lineup and you're at your first NCAA tournament, and this is the pinnacle of what you've been working towards. What are you feeling Thursday morning as you get ready to wrestle your first match at the big dance?
Yeah, I was pretty relaxed. I'm not really a guy who gets too like hyped up or too crazy out there. So I had a good season. I'd lost 2 matches. I lost to Chris Dardanes, another Illinois guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I lost to Oliver a month before in the dual meet. So I lost those 2 matches. And I had it kind of lined up where if I wanted to win the tournament, I was probably gonna have to beat both those guys. Um, but I felt really good. I had really, really good training. I mean, the weight wasn't an issue, and I had a really good plan for my matches, and I felt at a good place. That's for sure.
Well, I love how you said like even if you had a bad week during that time, you would just look around at your partners and be like, all right, well, whoever I'm going to be wrestling, they can't beat Sean Bunch, they can't beat Jay Jaggers, they can't beat Reese Humphrey. So it's like that's the
Yeah,
kind of guys you're with every day. I mean, that's a crazy room.
yeah. That was kind of my self talk. But I was always like, "What's your self talk? What's your mental? What are you thinking?" And that was my self talk. I was thinking, well, these guys can't, beat so and so, and maybe they could, but I felt
Yeah.
like they couldn't. Right?
But I mean,
Nowadays it
think
gets crazy.
about even at high school though, how low to your room was. Like when you get to colleges, that those guys are it's just such another level up. Like the Sean Bunches, Reese Humphreys, like you're getting
Yeah,
challenged even more.
yeah. I mean, those guys were just so elite. So I felt in my mind that I could wrestle with those guys, and on good days I could beat them. But I felt like the guys I was gonna wrestle in the NCAA tournament wouldn't be able to beat Sean or Reese or Jay.
Yeah.
Um, so I felt really comfortable. I felt great about how the tournament could go.
And 2 pins and you wrestled Dardanes in the corners, beat him 7-4, and then Ramos in the semis. And it's like, dude, that's just a tough bracket, a tight win.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
were
it's
you-
NCAA tournament, so
yeah,
it's gonna be tough, right? But yeah, I felt good. I felt, Dardanes, I felt great in my match against him, and then Ramos is always a hard match, so I felt good with Ramos. And then I remember thinking before my match with Oliver that I had no stress because he had just beat me. He beat me pretty good, and I felt, uh, this is what they won't tell you probably, but I felt that if I lost, not that it was okay, but I was supposed to lose, so I felt no pressure. It's like
wow.
no one, not many people would say that, like, oh, I always thought I was gonna win or whatever. But in reality, it was like I didn't really feel that much pressure. Like he just beat
Yeah.
me. He's a returning champion. I've been wrestling well. I had a good plan, I thought, with my coaches, and I thought I could follow it well. And I thought that, it would be okay. It would be okay. If I wrestled hard, it would be okay if I didn't win. It just is
That's
what it
probably
is.
like one of the only matches you've ever wrestled where like you weren't expected to win by everyone. I mean, you were still expected to win, but like you'd already, like you said, you
Yeah,
lost to a
no,
month
for
earlier.
sure. Yeah, definitely underdog. And before, on our first match, I got in on his legs a bunch. I couldn't score, and then I couldn't get off on bottom. So he rode me with like a ankle hook and crossface, trying to crossface cradle me in the first match, I think for 3 minutes. So I got killed on bottom, and I just was a struggle. So for the next month, I worked really really hard on defending the crossface cradle and defending different things he was doing on top. So kind of had a goal in mind. I knew I had to get a takedown. I wanted to not give up a takedown, um, at least not early.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get away on bottom.
Well, did you watch that match? The second period when you hit that takedown, you were so close to scoring already, and then you guys went out of bounds. But the takedown you hit, you have a single, and you're trying to like get that whizzer out, and you just do a high step over. Dude, that was freaking beautiful. Like that was
Yeah,
you don't see that often.
I know. If you watch our first match, I tried it about 10 times and it failed every time. So
Really?
I just I don't know what it was to make this one different. I don't know if he was a little bit more relaxed. I think he was doing the splits more with his right leg than the first match. He had more, but his knees were together. Uh, so I think the him doing the splits more. I think it was just a little bit. He was a little bit relaxed there.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was super close. Yeah, I was super close in the first period to scoring. Um,
Super
and
close. Yeah.
and obviously he took me down right away. But I felt okay because I got away really fast.
That was a weird
Uh,
takedown because you didn't even go down to like all fours even. It was just kind of like a little shuck,
yeah,
and then you're on your hands to do the hand touch, and it wasn't like
yeah,
really a ride he put on you after that. It was quick.
yeah. It was quick, right? And then the second period when I went down, if you watch the match, you'll see my left arm goes like high because he was trying to crossface.
Okay.
So again, he rode me for about 3 minutes the first match, and then I think I got away in like 5 seconds and 6 seconds the two times I was on the bottom. So a lot of credit to Coach Jay and Coach Lou and Tom and everybody just for having a good plan because I didn't do that the first time and I got the crap written out of me.
What do
So
you remember about winning that first title, and like what'd you do that night to celebrate?
yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it was crazy close at the end of the match, right? And it could have went either way. I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it went my way, right? Super close, but uh it it
Like, what
was
were you
really cool.
feeling in that moment when you won?
Oh man, I was super pumped. I remember like just hugging Coach Roselli, and I was super excited. And I knew how much work that I did, and the coaches did, and helped me get there. And it was really cool. They I feel like every other year, every couple of years, they have this thing, but they allowed me to have two tickets to the floor for the finals. So my mom and dad were like, absolutely no way. Like they sit on opposite ends. Like they don't, they're like, they don't want to
Really?
be anywhere close to the mat. They're nervous. My mom was probably in the bathroom. My dad was probably up in the rafters somewhere. So one of my best friends, and then my brother sat down there. So right after the match, I gave them a big hug and everything. So that was super cool. And then
Nice.
yeah, it took forever to get my drug test done. I could not pee, And then I had a fun night with my friends. And then the next day we got back home and we went to spring break in Florida for a week. So it was a good time. Yeah,
Well,
good
especially
celebration.
considering Jo at that point, he was a junior. Had he already won a couple?
He'd won one. So he
Okay.
won as a sophomore. Yeah, he won as a sophomore. He was a junior there.
You talk about, he was a huge 133, and then the following. I mean, as growing up, I mean, you must have heard of Jo, I'm sure. Had you ever wrestled him before that, or only in
I
college?
never wrestled him. He's a little bit older than me. But I never wrestled him. I really probably only seen him one time at a tournament. We were in a dual meet tournament, Team Jordan. It was a crazy dual meet. It was versus Pennsylvania. And he beat David Taylor in his match. And I remember
Whoa.
because I knew David, and I was like, dang, this kid is good, because I knew how good David was. So I'd heard the
Wow.
name, and then obviously as I got older, I'd heard of him and knew him because he's just super great wrestler. So
That must have been an insane duel meet. That's like, what was that, middle school, high school, or what?
middle school duels, it was nuts. It was nuts. It was nuts. I was the smallest weight, and David was second smallest weight. Our team was really, really good, and Pennsylvania beat us. We were a really good team.
Dude, David probably almost never lost back then.
Never. So JO was up, I think 6-0 against David, or 5-0 going the third period, and then David took him down, let him up a bunch of times, take it to overtime, and then JO took him down in overtime. It's nuts.
Damn, that's crazy. Were the Palmers that same age or a different age?
Yep, same age. Yep,
Okay.
so same age as me and David. Yeah.
Because which one wrestled David in that dual meet in high school?
Colin. Lance was
Okay.
older. Lance was a little bit. Lance graduated in 2010, and then my first year was that summer. So me and Lance
Okay.
weren't together at all in school, but
because he was Metcalf's. Yeah, that would have been a little bit older.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so you win your freshman year. Yeah, obviously you win all four. I mean, everyone knows that. But the other match that I love to think about is that Zane match in the semis where you were avenging a loss. Had you wrestled? So talk us through the Zane series of matches. That first one you lost him. Had you ever wrestled him before?
Nope.
What year were you that year?
I was a junior. Yep,
Okay.
I was a junior, and I knew he was tough. I think he just won cadet world title, so I knew he was gonna be a pretty tough kid, tough guy, and I wrestled him, and kind of poor strategy by me. I took him down right away, had an armbar half. I was like, oh, I'm gonna pin him, and he got out of it. And then for whatever reason, I just let him go at 55 seconds of riding time. Just a bad decision. Well, I thought I was gonna get out a takedown, and I didn't. So I did get another takedown. It's 2-1. Second period, um, I chose down, and he rolled me the whole period with the boots. I got stall call on me, and the crowd was like crazy.
Is that rec hall, right?
Rec hall, yeah. So it was a good loud crowd. There's good crowd against me there. Third period, he chose neutral, and I was at this point. It was like everything was getting to me. I was tired. Not really the stress of, but I just was tired. It was a tough match, and the energy and everything. So I tried to score, couldn't score, so I was tied because he had riding time. So if I'd had a minute and 5 riding time, then he wouldn't have probably rode me out the whole period, or maybe out at whatever. So an error there, and then he took me down in overtime. And it's just one of those things where it just was like, okay, well, I got to get in better shape, and got to work on finishes. He did a good job defending some things, so it was all good. No problems. Coaches didn't yell at me or anything. I never got yelled at.
Yeah.
But it was all good. So then we actually wrestled in the Big Ten finals. And we had 2 very similar matches, Big Tens and Nationals. So Big Tens, I think I turned him, took him down twice and turned him for a 2 count. He reversed me at Big Tens, I think. And then at Nationals semifinals, I think I took him down just once in the first period. And then I scored 2 more takedowns.
You control that one. I watched that one. Yeah, that was a workman-like win there. What I love about you, and this is the first time really getting to meet you, is you take your losses in stride better than anyone at your level that I think I've ever. Like you really seem to have like a confidence about it, where it's not like end of the world when you took a loss. Like, is that something you'd always had?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, not to sound, this is kind of sounding cocky, but I'm never cocky. So if it sounds cocky, that's okay. I didn't really lose that much.
Right.
So I don't know, I remember like when I did lose, a lot of times my dad would get mad at me, especially when I was younger. Probably at all ages actually. But I just I remember thinking this in my mind, like I could fix the errors.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if there's anytime I lost where I thought, well, it didn't matter what I did. I can never beat this guy. So in my mind, it was like, okay, well, I'm either out of shape, bad weight cut, or technically I had some areas where I needed to fix. So just in my mind, those were my reasons. Like, okay, well, of course I lost. I had a bad weight cut and the guy was really good and I couldn't finish my single leg. So if I could finish my single leg and I had a bad weight cut and the guy was good, I still could have won. But you
Mm-hmm.
start adding in all these different things, like it's a high level, right? So I kind of just
But you never got like
compartmentalized
bodied
everything.
up where it was like so dominant. You're like, I'm never gonna beat that dude. So that was probably a big factor.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe once or twice in freestyle, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, I felt like, okay, well, I could fix that. I could fix this or I could fix that. And so with Zane, it was like, okay, well, I worked a lot on when I get my single leg, the bars to guard finish, kind of frontward, kind of double leg kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
then just making sure I got my riding time. It was obviously such an error on the first match. So the second and third match just super super important to ride, and if I could turn him, cool. But he was really tough, so I was able to get one tilt on him. But it was just score my takedowns and ride, try to score two in the first period, and then ride, and then go from there. But
That was your plan. Yeah.
that was my plan. But yeah, the losses are, people lose, right? So
Right.
I mean, it's what it is. So it's like you're gonna scream, you get mad, you're gonna hate yourself, sun's gonna come up tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
it's why not try to learn from it? And if you do a good job in other areas of your life, then the losses shouldn't be a big deal because it's gonna happen. But you're training hard and you're doing the right things, you're eating well, and
Mm-hmm.
so
And when you talk about your senior year, you really hit the trifecta: Hodge, 4 national titles, and a team title. And I love the Ohio State Penn State battles during that time. So I'm trying to think back when Kale first got there. So he was already there. So when you guys won in 15, were you going against Penn State as your biggest threat that year, or who was like the biggest team threat?
yeah,
Was that
Penn State and Iowa.
okay?
I think Iowa ended up getting second. So Penn State and Iowa were actually I don't even know if Penn State was in the mix because Nico Megaludis redshirted and Zane redshirted. So they might not have they might have been a little bit lower on the thing on the
Okay.
team. Um, so it was Iowa. Iowa was the big rivalry.
I mean,
Uh,
but you watch all those, football national titles as a kid. It must have been pretty nice to add one to the trophy case for Ohio State from a team standpoint because there's so few team champs.
yeah, it was. It was really cool. I mean, just it was just something that I was inspired by the teams before me. 2008, 2009, Ohio State got second and was very close to winning. Um, and I knew, coming in, we had a bunch of tough guys coming in and young guys, and each year we kept adding new people. And I just knew that, we would have a chance at one point. So I was really happy that, we had a chance. And like everything, there's lots of adversity. With my brother was getting hurt. My brother got hurt and couldn't wrestle. Or he qualified, but couldn't do anything what he wanted to do. And one of our teammates got shot and got one of our teammates died.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just so it was a crazy year. It was a tough year. And lots of emotions. I mean, it was wild. We actually kind
I
of
don't
a funny.
I don't
What
remember
you
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of our teammates, he played football at Ohio State,
Okay.
and he wrestled Costa Care George, and he passed away in November of 2014. So he was one of our brothers, and so that was tough for everybody. And then my brother tore both of his UCLs and his elbows. Um,
Dang.
yeah, yeah. So he moved up to 149, and he was like he didn't wrestle really all year. And then he came back for Big Tens, and I don't think he auto qualified a spot, so he had to be in the top 6 or whatever. And so when he won in the semifinals. It was a crazy match against the Penn State guy, and Big Tens were at Ohio State,
Wow.
so the place went nuts. I mean, it was like the loudest I've ever heard anything when my brother won. It was the coolest moment ever. He won in the semis, and it was really big. Like, as hurt as he was, we needed him to win because we ended up tying Iowa for the Big Ten title.
Now you said I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like really important for him to wrestle, and he actually tried to wrestle. So he didn't wrestle in the semifinals, forfeited, and he was gonna forfeit out, but we were kind of crunching the numbers, and my brother was down bad, but we knew it was gonna be really close. So he tried to wrestle in the Conti semis and was in a back and forth match and lost. But it was wild. It was a wild Big Tens, and yeah, we ended up tying Iowa. And then yeah, the national
Is that when you
title.
wrestled Ramos in the finals in that year?
Nope, I wrestled Josh Jeva
Okay.
from Iowa.
No, I'm sorry
I
for the
wrestled
jumping ahead to the NCAA's. Did you? So who'd you didn't? So that was Ramos.
I wrestled Mitchell Port.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like now that you say this, I remember like the NCAA's, the TV. It was like Tom Ryan and Tom Brand sitting together because it was like coming
Oh
down
yeah,
to the.
that was 20. Well, yeah, when they were sitting together, that was 2013 when me and Ramos wrestled each other in the finals.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so the year before, yeah, or 2 years
Yeah,
before.
we wrapped up. We had I think mathematically clinched it on Saturday morning. I think Bo had a pin for third and fourth. Bo Jordan, that kind of clinched it, where it was like mathematically we win unless somebody gets kicked out or something. So
And it's crazy because you become a 4-timer, and on your team, you have what people think might be the next 4-timer, and Kyle Snyder, and he loses in the finals. Like that was pretty crazy.
yeah, so it was set up where I was the last match. So they started at 49,
Okay.
and so we just were chilling, and then all of a sudden we had 3 finalists. He was in the finals at 97, Nate in the finals at 125, and I was in the finals 141. So I remember like we were watching it, and then obviously there's a TV delay of 5 seconds. So they were wrestling, and then we heard the crowd go like, I don't know about nuts, but like crowd went like, oh, and then we're like, oh shoot, and then yeah, we watched it obviously. So then it was kind of like I mean, I was really good at not letting other things affect me outside of it, but it was definitely like a dang. It would have been nice to win them all. But then then Nate ended up winning in the
Mm-hmm.
finals. Yeah, then I was up.
What was your take on Snyder as a senior of the team and the leader? Then you have this guy come in who's who's a freak in his own right. But what was he like as a young pup in the room?
Yeah, he worked really, really hard. He did a good job, and he did whatever whatever the staff has asked of him, and he worked very, very hard. And which is just was it was good to see. I mean, I worked like an animal when I
Yeah.
was in there. So it was cool to see him and Bo and Nate um doing similar things as I was, and kind of helped, I think, inspire the rest of the group.
Yeah. You're so focused on your own thing, and it's crazy because after that you win a world title in 2016, you make several world teams, and you retired. And just this year, literally this month, you're named to the Hall of Fame, which is it's just an amazing accomplishment, man. It's like now you're fully into coaching. How big of a change has it been to go from competing to coaching for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be a coach, so I was super excited to join the staff, and honestly, the change is just it's just been like how much non-wrestling work you got to do, right?
Mm.
It's like what they don't tell you about being a wrestling coach, all the non-wrestling stuff. So the best days are the days where you come in and you have guys from 8 to 10 o'clock coming in, and you're doing technique with them, and you're working on different things, and then you have a easy midday, and in the afternoon they come in and scrap, and you're like, wow, that's a good day of wrestling. The tough days are the 3 hour long meetings, and then doing the outside competition forums, and going through the compliance meetings, and doing different things, and so all the different paperwork and stuff. So it's wrestling. So I don't want to sound like
Yeah.
it's a bad job. It's a great job. I would much rather be doing that, but it is it's different. I mean, being an athlete is easy. I always tell people, I mean, it's super easy because it's all relative, right? So if I told you to come to practice at 2:30 and work out, and you're just somebody on the street, it'd be very, very tough. But if you're doing it every
You'd be
day
a
for like,
dead man, bro.
you'd be a dead man. But if you do it every day for 20 years, it's easy. I mean, it's hard, of course, because you're pushing yourself really hard. But it's you're used to the hard, so it's
Hmm.
easy. Um, so when people are thinking about when they're like a senior level athlete, and thinking about, man, I think I'm gonna get into coaching or get into out of wrestling and get into the real world. I'm like, man, I don't know. That's like being an athlete is easy. I
Hmm.
love to be an athlete still. I mean, you
Yeah.
work out because it's like people will ask you like, oh, you working out 20 hours a week, and it's like, no, no, hour in the morning and hour and a half in the afternoon, and 5 days a week. Sometimes I do a 6 day. Like it's and I don't want to say it lightly because it's extremely tough and you have to be very, very disciplined. But it's like it's a hardness that it's a discipline that so
Hmm.
it's a good life. So it's
And do you have to
uh
recruit too, or is that other people on the staff? Because that's, to
yeah,
me, as a salesperson, I would imagine you guys every night you're banging the phones, you're texting, you're social mediaing. Like, is that all part of it too, or no?
yeah, a lot of recruiting. I mean, there's yeah, a lot of recruiting, and that's become an interesting. I mean, I've only really known one thing, but for the guys that have been on staff longer, it used to be you couldn't recruit off campus or on campus on official visits until they were seniors. So they had like a 3 or 4 month window before the signing day. They did all their visits, and then boom, they signed. The next year they're a
Right.
Buckeye. Now it's juniors. So now August 1st of their junior year, coaches can come to their house. You can have them on official visits. So it's tougher because you have to recruit them longer, and it's like so sometimes people, yeah, you're just recruiting them longer, and it's
I
like
feel
if
like
you
it's so brutal, bro.
it's
I
hard
mean,
because you create relationships, and then it's you want one guy, and but you like another guy too, and then it's like one guy wants to come in. Do we want to just, hey, do we want to get him, or do we want to wait for another guy who we maybe want a little bit more, or who's a higher recruit, or so it becomes like it's. I wish it was back to just senior year, and I wish it was 5 visits, 5 visits in senior year, because
it's
now it's
it's
unlimited
better.
visits.
It's better for the athletes too, because as a junior in high school, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Like, you don't even know what you're doing as a young man, like in 20s. So it's like to pick a thing like that, to have all these college coaches calling, and like I mean, it's brutal. To tell a coach no is brutal. So
It is hard. That's why I think my advice to any young athletes is if you know early, tell them early because they won't make us mad. I mean, I have some coaches get mad. I don't know. I don't
yeah.
mind it if a kid tells me if they're just upfront, say, hey, I think we're gonna go another way. We have a good relationship with so and so, or maybe the scholarship offer is better. To me, I'm like most I'm gonna be all good because
Hmm.
then it's maybe one less weekend of official visits we don't have to do, or a few more text messages or whatever we don't have to do. So some coaches will I mean maybe will fight to the very end. Um, and then of course there's some guys that will fight to the very end too. But I think it's very respectable when a kid knows when someone's off the table to let them know.
Yeah. When you look
Actually,
at
yeah, it's actually they probably not meaning to do it, but it's actually almost disrespectful when they don't do that, right? When they
right,
string you along, knowing that it's like it's not gonna happen, but you string us along and we bring you in on a visit because it's time. I mean, the money's something because it's like it's a school budget or whatever, but still it's still money, but it's like the time it's a lot of weekends.
a lot
So
of
if you
weekends, and
if you
it's
if
like,
you know you're not gonna come, then it's all good.
well, you guys just came off of one of the most impressive recruiting classes in a long time for any school, and those guys are now stepping into the lineup, and we're seeing, the Feldmans of the world, and some of these other guys are unbelievable. But in this day and age, I mean, Ohio State every year, along with the programs we all know and love, they can get any number one recruit, right? And so it's like knowing it's a whole extra year longer. It's just, I can imagine the sales process to get someone, and then once you have them, are you like continuous following up with them, or once they sign, you just figured they're good and we got them? Because you see a lot of kids switching.
Yeah, I mean, with the transfer rules now, it's kind of crazy. So, for the most part, we don't really recruit guys who are gonna be, let's just say, flirting with other teams,
Hmm.
right? So it'll happen. But so yeah, we're talking with our recruits and talking with our guys and guys who have committed and guys who have signed. So we're still talking to them and everything, and keeping contact. And we'll see them at different tournaments where we go recruit at and everything, or if they come up for camps. But so you're still talking to them, but it's definitely like a more relaxed talk where you're just kind of just shooting the shit and just kind of like checking in, making sure things are good. But it's
guards down a little bit.
it's a different world when when just because now it's like even if they commit as a junior, they could just another coach could keep talking to them, and I mean they can do it now when they sign. It's illegal, but they'll still do it. The tampering and stuff. So it's like it's tough, but you want to make sure you try to recruit the right guys, and I think Coach Ryan and all of us as a staff have done a good job of that in recent years. And like I said, really like our guys, and so far no one's transferred out. So I think they like us, and so it's all good. Yeah.
Well, you guys, you go after a certain type of athlete, and obviously the wrestling caliber is always there. But outside of that, you could tell you look for a certain type of recruit, and you just got one of the best out of Illinois right now, Ben DeVino. So that's awesome to see him go to a great program. Let's just wind down with this though, man. You retired in 2019, one of the most dominant careers we'll ever see in America. What was it like those first month or two after retiring, knowing that you're done competing? Was that a relief, or was that something where you were kind of like in turmoil over that decision?
So honestly, it was in turmoil probably from maybe like January. So I got married in December of 18, and then I went on my honeymoon in January, and I took a little bit of time just during honeymoon and then post honeymoon just to kind of think and talk to my wife, like what I want to do. Do I want to keep wrestling? My body was hurting a lot. And I didn't really want to I didn't want to keep training and competing and doing all this stuff. And so by the time I made the decision, I was at peace with it and very like happy with it.
Yeah.
And I never thought about coming back and competing again. The people ask me that all the time. They asked me that the first tournament I saw people after I retired, and they asked me that last weekend. Yeah, it's I've never thought about it. It's because I know. No.
Well, you said in another interview from 8 to 28, you were full tilt all the way through.
Yeah, full tilt. I mean, training almost every day and very intense, elite level training. I mean, the stuff we did as a grade school, middle school, high school was easy compared to college. I mean, nothing.
Seriously,
not close. So it's
seriously though.
Yeah, just to like the level. Yeah, just the intensity and the level. The level. Yeah. The stress of it all. So it's like, it's 20 years of super elite, and people do more than that for sure. But for me, it was enough. My body was starting to hurt, and I was ready to be done. So I'm very happy. I'm happy where I'm at now, and I'm happy I made the right decision. And
good to go. Good, man. It's an honor to have you on the podcast, and just really cool to sit down and talk with you. You're welcome to come back anytime, because there's so much we didn't talk about. To me, I think about when you were a senior in high school at that U.S. Open, because I just did a documentary on Cejudo, and when Cejudo won the U.S. Open was it a high school senior? Yeah, he did win as high school senior.
I think he won as a senior, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, so there's a ton to talk about, man. So basically, you're welcome back anytime. I'm a huge fan of Coach Ryan and the whole program, so really appreciate you coming on today, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.